Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Big Apple Hockey, where we are very excited about what's going on right now with the Stanley Cup Finals. And we're going to be covering all that, going through some of the offseason headlines, and a lot more to discuss. I, of course, am your host, Mark Williams. The Panthers are halfway towards Stanley, and I can't get my name banner up because I like this one better. I like the little guy in the bottom. And joined by the one and only Mr. John Volkowski.
Yeah, close to off-season time. Hopefully this one goes quick.
Yeah, Phil, the silly season, as we always refer to it, is about to start. And honestly, it could be really exciting. I mean, obviously, the NHL draft at the Sphere in Vegas. And look, there's a lot of questions that New York Ranger fans are left with. What's going to be left of the Florida Panthers, because they got a ton of salary decisions to make. And also, hey, I guess we're going to be looking up everything on Puckpedia come July 5th, right?
Yeah, thanks, Washington.
Yeah. Well, let's get right over to the A block, everybody, right now. Well, we're going to be going over to the Stanley Cup Finals. And where the Florida Panthers right now have a 2-0 lead on the Edmonton Oilers. By the way, the A block is powered to you by Seat Geek. Don't forget to also look for Big Apple Hockey trucker hats and shirts are available. I'm a little bit under the weather, hence the sweatshirt right now. And Phil, Florida with a 2-0 lead over Edmonton. And I understand Edmonton outshot them in game one. I don't think the series has been close so far. What do you think so far looking at it?
Florida just seems to be outclassing them. I mean, they could have had a goal in game one, but that apparently was called off. It seems like Florida is just playing the game that I thought this series was going to be a lot closer. I really thought that Edmonton, with the job that they did on Dallas, that they could have actually put up a good fight against Florida because they were quicker at moving the puck, but just seems that Alexander Barkov is doing a great job on Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and Florida's game is just too much for them, apparently. So, and the games really haven't been fun to watch. So this is probably one of the worst Stanley Cup Finals I think I've watched in a very long time.
Yeah, kind of unbelievable to say that, because Florida, I think, is a pretty entertaining team, the way that they play. And of course, you have Connor McDavid at center stage. Anthony's about to join us in about a minute. So, yeah. But you look at some of the, like Edmonton, the first game really kind of stifled Florida's shooting chances. Florida was able to score on their first shot. I mean, and I believe that happened the same thing last game with Edmonton too. Was Ekholm got his first shot and then went in.
Yeah,
but
4-goal.
Yeah, and I think both teams are playing their games and they're playing them well. It's just I think Florida is going to travel when it goes north of the border. Maybe Edmonton splits. I don't see them taking both games. And the funny thing is, Phil, you look in recent memory, the last two teams to blow 2-0 series leads were the 2011 Vancouver Canucks and the 2009 Detroit Red Wings. And it's just, can Edmonton get their game going? Well, one way you could do that is if you take Alexander Barkov out of the series. You look at this number. I flashed it before. Barkov does it 2 assists. McDavid, Draisaitl, Bouchard, 21 shots, 1 assist, and a -4 rating. That's no good. But the two controversies that we have in the series, yeah, you got the disallowed goal in game one. Okay, whatever. You get the people arguing about that. But then, Phil, you get this one, which this is the hit, Leon Draisaitl on Alexander Barkov.
He really didn't miss much time, I don't think, though.
Yeah, and they're saying he's practicing right now. I just have to wonder about that hit, because if you look at it again, Phil, and I'm just gonna go backwards on this, get there. I mean, he leaves his feet. He's jumping to hit him. And he's targeting his head. I'm not calling Leon Draisaitl a cheap shot artist or anything by any means, but there's not even a peep out of.
I think this is really it. I mean, I think he probably should have gotten a 5-minute major. I don't think it's suspension worthy. I don't think there's anything like, especially if you're not going to suspend Sam Bennett for a sucker punch on Brad Marchand. Like, if you're not going to suspend
Agreed.
that, then you can't suspend Leon Draisaitl for that. I'm sorry, but it's got to be consistent across the board. And normally, I'm the one who says, well, if send the message early and get them and don't let first-time offenders off the hook so that this way they don't do it again. But you got a guy running around throwing sucker punches at players 2 playoff years in a row, 2 postseasons in a row, and he gets nothing for it. But you're going to suspend Draisaitl? I mean, Bennett's a player that plays on the edge. Draisaitl's not really that type of player.
No, he's not.
A mistake there. But I mean, again, imagine if Matt Rempe did that. It's a reputation thing. They're not going to suspend Draisaitl, even though I mean, at this point I maybe would give him a game, but like if you're not going to do anything to Sam Bennett, you're not going to do anything to Leon Draisaitl. And that's the problem I have with this whole thing is the NHL is so far out of whack. The Department of Player Safety, the joke that it is so far out of whack that they can't even begin to start suspending players because they look like a horse's ass if they started with Leon Draisaitl in the finals. You're gonna let go of the other crap that you've let go from guys like Sam Bennett, and then you're gonna suspend Leon Draisaitl. How much of the clown show are they going to look like if they do that? It's just impossible for them to get on the right foot. So.
Anthony, what do you think of the Draisaitl hit?
I mean, there's all the elements of a suspendable play. I mean, he left his feet. It looked like the direct point of contact was indeed Barkov's head. I mean, do I think he intended to hurt him? No. I mean, I definitely think, he had in his mind, Barkov is their best player. He's shutting us down. Let me get a good lick on him. That I think happened. Don't think he intended to hurt him, but regardless, facts are facts. He hit him in the head. If that's the regular season or anybody not named Draisaitl, he probably is getting suspended. But, as Phil said, it's Stanley Cup playoffs. It's Leon Draisaitl, a star player in a pivotal game. There's no way that they were going to suspend him. I disagree with it. I think regardless if it's Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals or Game 1 of the regular season, a suspendable hit is a suspendable hit. So, but it is what it is. They're obviously weren't going to do it. They didn't suspend him, and Panther fans have to live with that. And hopefully, the Panthers get revenge by beating them and taking a stranglehold to go up 3-0. But yeah, I knew the minute that play happened that he wasn't going to be suspended for all the talk of that he should be.
I don't mean to cut in front of you, Mark, but I have one thing that I want to add, and I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I remember, I believe, watching this with you, Anthony. Remember when Evgeny Malkin literally just assaulted Henrik Zetterberg at the Game 2 of the 2009 Stanley Cup Finals?
Oh, yeah.
And that was a suspendable play. He got nothing for that. They didn't even do anything. They wouldn't even mention it. But he literally just jumped Zetterberg and mauled him at the end of the game. And they did not call anything. And so there's precedence for guys for superstar players getting nothing on plays that are suspendable.
The problem that you're going to run into this is that you're going to have escalating things happening. Now, look, the likeliness of a superstar doing this is very, very slim. Connor McDavid isn't going to tomahawk somebody in the face with his stick in Game 5 of this series. It's not happening. But you got to make sure that it's not in the game. And it would just be nice if player safety at least made a statement out of that. Or how about this, mentioning the Sam Bennett thing? It doesn't matter when the evidence comes up. You suspend the guy just because you found out it wasn't an accident and it was intentional. You still suspend him. And that's where I've been on that horn the entire time.
Unless you're the New York Rangers and it's Adam Graves and Mario Lemieux, then you get 4 games for a slash to the wrist.
Yeah, 4 games on a slash to the wrist. Then he was back a week later versus the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
So
broken
obviously.
Wrist.
So it's just and look, and it can't just be you can't do this in the playoffs because look, and again, I've said look about 5 times so far, guys. Sorry about that. but he is in the first round. Maybe there's a suspension. Second round, likely not. Third round, definitely not. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, you suspend me for even bringing that up right now. But you got to make sure you have the player safety at in the first hand. That's the top priority, because if Barkov, let's say Barkov has a concussion. First off, by the way, Florida is going to hide that. So would Barkov, or he'll try. But what if they knock him out of the series right there? You just mentioned Zetterberg, Phil, that he got attacked by Malkin. Nothing happened. No. What was one of the teams that blew a 2-0 lead? The 2009 Red Wings.
You don't think that having Malkin out for Game 3 wouldn't have helped them get a 3-0 lead in that series?
Yeah. And we know the record of teams coming back from a 3-0 deficit. It ain't good. So, Anthony, let's start with you. Game 3. Who will win Game 3 and why?
I mean, it's easy to say the Panthers right now just because of how well they played in games 1 and 2. But, I mean, you got to assume at some point McDavid and Draisaitl are going to find a way to break through. They're just too good not to. They're at home. You know, it's Edmonton's first Stanley Cup game at home in, 18 years, so 2006. So that place is going to be absolutely buzzing. I'd like to think the Oilers are going to win Game 3 and make a series out of this. I mean, I'm not 100% on it, but right now my gut says that the Oilers win Game 3 and, you know, make this a 2-1 series. With that said, though, they're going to have to change a lot about their game. They're going to have to start to get to the center of the ice, get to the harder areas. You know, Bobrovsky was the story in Game 1. I mean, Game 2, he was good. But he wasn't the story. But Bobrovsky has been fantastic overall, though. So the Oilers are going to have to try to find a way to get one on him and then have the dam break after that. You thought in Game 2, they got that goal, the first goal, and Bobrovsky probably would have liked to have it back. I thought at that point, okay, maybe they can get to him now. But after that, there was nothing after that. Absolutely nothing. So, yeah, I think the Oilers take Game 3, but again, they're going to have to get more pucks on Bobrovsky, make his life hell, and like I said, McDavid and Draisaitl, it's only a matter of time before they break through. So I'll say the Oilers take Game 3.
Phil?
I have to say Florida. I think that they're going to probably take a stranglehold in this series, and the reason why is because Edmonton doesn't have a 5-on-5 goal in over 200 minutes. Going back to Game 5 of the Dallas series, their 2 goals in their goals in Game 6, power play goals. They're shut out in Game 1, and then their 1 goal in Game 2 was a 4-on-4 goal. They have not had a 5-on-5 goal in, I think it's about 210 minutes, if I remember seeing the exact number correctly. It's just not good enough. You're not going to win if you're not going to score a 5-on-5. Take note from the New York Rangers, Edmonton Oilers fans, because they're not going to win that way. But Anthony is definitely right about the fact that that building is going to be absolutely charged and bonkers, having a Stanley Cup game for the first time in 18 years. I mean, so it's definitely something to consider. But I absolutely agree with him that you can't keep Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl down for that long. Like, eventually these guys are going to find a way. They're too good not to. But I do wonder about them, and I do wonder about the rest of the team being able to help them out. Like, this is where your depth has to come through and has to start scoring goals, because sometimes the big guns do just get shut down. With that said, McDavid and Draisaitl have put up a fight that I didn't see in Zibanejad and Kreider and Panarin. So that's a good thing. Like, those guys are playing like they're possessed, like they're out there trying to make something happen. It's just not working so far. So I will say that there is a chance that they win it. I think Florida just comes out on top. I just think they're too good right now.
I can't help but think about what I was doing on May 14th. Why I'm bringing up that date was because before Monday night, that was the last time the Edmonton Oilers gave up a power play goal. That was nearly a full month, and it's in the playoffs at that. Yeah. Wow. So they gave up a power play goal. Evan Rodriguez getting that one. Evan Rodriguez right now, 3 goals in the first 2 games. Hell of a job by him. Although that, I think that second one in game 1, almost anybody could have scored because he was all alone in front.
Yeah.
But the other thing I kind of wonder about, guys, is when you have a great player that you have on your team, and then they get to the Stanley Cup Finals, there might be a little bit too much adrenaline going, not just from McDavid and Draisaitl, but you also get it from Hyman and all the other players because they want to win for them. Let's see if it calms down a little bit now that they've gotten their beak wet in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're going back home. They're in their routine. Maybe things could be a little bit different. Maybe they take game 3, make this into a series. Let's see how game 4 turns out. I still got the Panthers in 6. I'm firm with that, and I'm not going to start just lowering it right now. But Matt's saying right here, if the Oilers need to make sure that breakout point is on point the next game, because we saw last game, once Florida was able to contain the Oilers breakout and got their forecheck going, they dominated. Guys, Florida's forecheck has got to be the most dangerous weapon out of any team in the playoffs.
Yeah. We thought Carolina's was dangerous, but Florida's is like theirs on steroids, and it's better. Not only that, but the one thing that they do is Florida's just so good in transition that they don't get caught with the odd man rushes that Carolina got caught with. That was always the way to beat them. The thing is that in order to beat Florida, you have to be good at, well, not just good, but quick at getting the puck out of the zone. That first pass has to be off the stick quickly because they just looked at it. It's a simple plan that they work with. It's very simple. It's very basic. There's nothing complex about it. But in order to beat it, you have to be able to, 1, move the puck quickly and effectively. 2, your defense has to be quick on retrieving the puck. And Bouchard is pretty good at that. But there are some other guys on that blue line that are just horrendous at it. Like Darnell Nurse is having one of the worst postseasons I've seen of any defenseman not named Jacob Trouba, like recently. Like his plus minus is a special level of atrociously bad. Like I've never seen it that bad on a defenseman outside of maybe Trouba, who was on for like 10 straight goals against for the Rangers. But Darnell Nurse has been bad. Cody Ceci has reverted back to Cody Ceci. I mean, Ekholm and Bouchard are great, but they don't really have the help. I mean, the best way to beat this team is to have the puck. 1990s, 2000s Red Wings, puck possession. You win the game if you have the puck more often than not, for the most part. So, but they need to be quicker at moving the puck out of the zone. They need to be more crisp, more effective, and if you can do that and support the puck out of the zone, you can beat Florida.
I think I saw something that Darnell Nurse's playoff plus minus is rivaling Mike Rathje's from the early days of the San Jose Sharks in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's just unreal. All right. Anthony, one last word, because we lost you a little bit in the beginning. What other insights you want to give for this series?
I think, aside from obviously Barkov playing phenomenal defensively and shutting down the Oilers, big guns, I think Lundell has done a great job too. Lundell's forechecked hard. He hasn't really given up much at all, 5-on-5. Guy Luosterainen is playing a really good series, and even Evan Rodriguez is coming up big, especially in game 2 the other day. They're getting, the thing for Florida that I'll mention is like Tkachuk, Barkov. They haven't scored much this series. It's been guys like Evan Rodriguez that have been getting the job done, like bottom 6 players. And I always say, to win in the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup, you need guys like that to show up. And the Panthers are doing that. And that for me is one of the reasons why I think that the Oilers can't win this series, because the Panthers are getting by without their big guns putting up big numbers. Sooner than later, Reinhart is going to start scoring. Kachuk's going to start scoring. When that happens, it's just I don't see how Edmonton's going to be able to compete with that. So the Panthers are just getting phenomenal play from everybody up and down the lineup on both sides of the puck. And so far, the Oilers haven't had any answer for it. So hopefully for them, change in scenery, going back home, getting away from certain matchups will be big for them. And, we'll see if Knobloch can kind of outcoach Maurice here now that they're at home.
Phil, did you have one more thought that was there?
That's what I was saying about depth before. Your depth guys got to step up this time of year. And, Ryan McLeod and, Connor Brown, they were great in the Dallas series. But we haven't really heard anything from guys like that in this series. Evander Kane, you need your secondary, tertiary guys to really step up and be factors at times, and they just have not been factors for Edmonton.
Yeah, you need your stars to be your stars, but that's where hockey really becomes the ultimate team game, because if you're going to have your stars taken out of the game, you got to get all those lower players that are going to start producing. All right, guys, let's take a quick message from DraftKings, and then let's do some bar talk.
Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame moneyline on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. Welcome back, everybody, to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, which I'm assuming right now is being called Layup Talk right now in the comments.
Yeah.
But where we gauge our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. You're so confident that you're buying around. So I'll have a beer, or, oh, dear God, just give me a shot. Put it down in the comments below. I still have to redo some of these graphics, but I've been sick the last couple of days. And, of course, as always, if you want a hat, click the link below, or even shirts are available. Guys, let's start with two of the RFAs for the New York Rangers that are coming up this offseason. Ryan Lindgren and Kaapo Kakko will both be RFAs. The Rangers are going to move the rights to Lindgren and Kakko this summer. Bilk. I was going to say just move on from them, but I went with the rights.
Oh, man.
So for the record, Phil, I had this as and or, and Marc eliminated the or, which
yes,
for me,
because I believe there's one of them they're definitely moving.
Oh,
I'll get to that.
I don't think we're seeing Ryan Lindgren moved, although I am very wary of them making the Stahl and Girardi mistake and giving him that terrible deal. I'm not. Kaapo Kakko is the one that I'm really not sure on, because the comments from Peter Laviolette and what he said about how he failed him and how and helping him to get to that next level makes me think that Peter Laviolette wants a legitimate chance to work with him and get him to that next level and really insert him and give him the minutes that he needs to get there. With that said, I don't know how highly this front office views him as a player. And I think that they may be at the point where, you know what, we give him up and he ends up doing his own thing somewhere else and he ends up becoming a better player. that they might just accept it at that point that it wasn't going to happen in New York. So that's the one that I'm really on. So I'm going to say beer.
Anthony, I understand it's remove the or, but which one do you think right here?
So when it was end or, I was gonna say beer, but now that it's both, like implying end, I'm actually gonna say shot because I don't think both of them are moving. The thing about Lindgren is he was just making what $3 million on his last contract. Got a player like him typically on their next deal usually get a raise. So it's like if he's gonna want a raise, coupled with the fact how banged up he tends to get, I'm not so sure if the Rangers are going to go down that road. I think there's a chance they could move him. As for Kakko, we all know they certainly could move him too, being that he struggled. So I think one of them goes, but not both. So that's why I'm going to say shot.
I'm going to say there's an outside chance for one, and that being, for being Lindgren. There's a definite chance on Kakko, and I'll tell you why at two different things. I'm going to go beer on this one, guys. And the reason why I think with Lindgren, what is really coming up through the system that's making you say you're going to replace a guy who's, I think Lindgren's 26 years old right now. So he's still kind of young. He's not as old as, say, Girardi and Stahl were, who were definitely on, he's 26, 27 next February. Look, you can live with maybe 4 more years, maybe 5 more years of Lindgren. I'd be wary about it because a guy that plays that physical is going to be hurting. The other part of this is when it's called restricted free agency, now the player is free to at least decide something. Well, I understand Kakko might understand and think this team is close enough to win a Stanley Cup. I got to start thinking about my career now if I'm Kakko. And are the Rangers really the best thing for him? Are they getting the most out of him? Like you said, Phil, Laviolette kind of thought he failed him. Well, Laviolette failed him. David Quinn failed him. Gerard Gallant failed him. Jeff Gorton failed him. John Davidson failed him. How many more failures do I have to go through? As there's nobody on right wing, yet I'm watching Jack Roslovic playing on the top line, and I just don't think he's a good fit with Kreider and Zibanejad either. That's the other thing. I think this is where Kakko might force his way out. I think it's probably for the best for him, and I don't know. I worry about Ryan Lindgren just breaking down one day, but I'll still go by and say he's 26 years old. There might be some more time on that one. Looking over to 2 New York Islanders upcoming free agents, Brock Nelson and Noah Dobson entering the final years of their deals. Of course, Noah Dobson is an RFA. That is one thing that's to keep in mind. Brock Nelson is a UFA. Both Brock Nelson and Noah Dobson are going to get contract extensions this summer. I see to you, Mr. LaRocco.
I'm going to say beer. I think Noah Dobson is going to go the route of Ilya Sorokin. You know, last summer, Sorokin was eligible to extend. He had 1 year left on his deal as a RFA, and he extended. Same thing with Dobson. He's going into the last year of his current contract, has RFA status at the end. I think the Islanders are going to lock him up long term. Nelson, the reason why I'm going beer is because I think with Nelson, just because of his age, I tend to think that, you know, Lou Lamoriello may want to hold off on signing him in the event, let's say I don't see it happening, but you never know. But in the event that they're not good next year and they're out of it at the deadline, being that his contract expiring, they could trade him as a rental and kind of, you know, get some assets back. So that's why I'm saying beer. I mean, I could very well be wrong. They could extend Brock Nelson right now, but just because of his age, and I think Lou may want to see how the season goes before, you know, I guess ultimately determining early if he wants to sign Nelson ahead of time. So I'll probably be wrong. They'll probably sign Nelson too come July 1st, but I'm going to say beer.
Phil.
I don't see how they don't re-sign him. I understand he's going to be 33 in October. I just, with the way that he's turned his career around, you would have to imagine that he's probably going to stay there, because that's the type of guy you want on your team as your number 2 center. I mean, he plays both sides of the puck well. He's probably not going to win a Selke, but he's above average defensively. Scores 30-plus goals a year now. He's good for about 60 points, 65 points probably in a regular year at this point. I wonder what the term's going to be. Not the term, but the AAV. It's really the AAV. It's probably going to be the sticking point with them. I think term-wise, they're probably looking at 5 or 6 years. And actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, with his age, term might be a problem. Like I said, he's going to be 33 in October, like right when the season starts. So if you want to keep him, I personally, if I'm an Islander fan, I want to see no more than probably 4 years and $32 million, maybe $34 million at most, like $8.5 million for it. Then again, Zibanejad is making $8.5 million, and he's a far superior offensive player, and the defense is probably close between them, at least, I would say. So I don't know if $8.5 million would be something that he would get. Maybe someone overpays him on the free agent market, but ideally you would want to keep him around 7.5 or so. And yeah, a 3-year deal for $21 million for 7 per would actually be something the Islanders, I think, would sign up for right now. If Nelson,
I think
that he would accept that, I think Lou would have pen to paper already. I really do.
Full no move clause.
Yeah, I think they would give him a no move for 3 years. Maybe actually, you know what? Maybe for the first 2 years, full no move, and then the second year, a modified with like a 16 team list or something like that. Maybe half the teams in the league, or some type of trade protection within that 3rd year. Just because at that point, if they decide that, hey, you know what, plans haven't gone well, and we're not doing too good, maybe they can move him, by the deadline to a contender at that point. So, I think a 3-year, $21 million deal would be awesome for the Islanders. For Nelson, he may be able to get that 1 extra year, maybe the $1 million more. Maybe someone gives him 4 years, 32 or closer to 32. But I have a hard time seeing anybody give him 5 years or something like that, because a guy like him and his style play is probably not going to last into his late 30s.
I gotta say,
sorry, Dobson. Don't even get me started. Dobson's got to sign a contract extension. They have to. That's a must. Sorry, forgot.
Well, he does have RFA status, Phil. Dobson could try to play the long game.
But you got to do everything in your power to get him under contract long term.
Okay. I am going to go beer on this one as well. First off, let me just say this. If he signed that 3 years for $7 million AAV, Brock Nelson, for the totality of his career, would be the greatest bargain on the history of the New York Islanders, because I think he's been underpaid with every single contract he's ever gotten, or outperformed every single contract he's ever gotten. And that's just how good of a player and a testament to how good he's been. I wonder if he's going to seek a longer term. I do know, or my hypothesis is, I should say, that he wants to be here. He wants to be a New York Islander. I think he would take yet another team-friendly contract in order to stay. Noah Dobson, on the other hand, and hi, Jason, how's it going?
No, you didn't. I just wanted to say hi. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Sorry, that's the bronchitis that's been getting at me.
Yeah, we can.
But I do think Noah Dobson has a shot at trying to get like an Adam Fox type of deal. Now, Lou is incredibly loyal to all of his guys. So, Anthony, I think you might be right. I think both of these might get done. I'm I'm gonna go a begrudging round on this one. I did say beer, I think, at first. I'm gonna go higher. Lose tend to go on. You're my guy. Let me sign you and take care of you. And if you take a little bit of a pay cut, we'll throw on an extra year or something like that. And I think he does that. Yeah. And yes, everybody smash the like button for us. I have not been doing enough shameless self-promotion of us tonight. But I do think Lou takes care of his guys, and I think he's forward-thinking enough because, again, like you said before, Anthony, the big surprise for us last year was that he got Sorokin to a very good deal. And the bigger surprise, though, was Engvall and Mayfield signing for the rest of their lives. And those deals right now don't look that great. All right, let's go back to the Stanley Cup Finals for a minute, guys, where we have the Stanley Cup Finals. After they're over, once they're over, Brandon Montour and Sam Reinhart will both be UFAs. Phil, the Panthers won't be able to afford both of them.
I want to say round, but at the same time, I wonder to what lengths this team will go to keep both of them and maybe possibly even run a little bit of a top-heavier team next year. The other part of me just wonders how much is a team willing to take a risk on Reinhardt's shooting percentage regressing greatly on another team? Because, I mean, the way that he plays fits literally perfectly with what Florida does. Like, I'm not trying to call him a Barkov merchant or anything like that, but the way Florida runs their offense, what they do is they just endlessly cycle and forecheck and cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle until the opposing teams defensively just has a breakdown. And who ends up being in that bumper spot when that breakdown occurs? Sam friggin' Reinhart. And what does he have? He has a hell of a shot. So that just leads to more chances for him, and that's why that shooting percentage is astronomically high. I think, almost 24% this year, I think it was. But he's just the right guy for that team in that right exact spot at the right time. Like, he fits like a glove with them. So I just wonder if teams are going to look at that and say, you know what, we're probably not going to get this type of production from him on another team. So he goes and tests the market and is unsuccessful and goes back to Florida and ends up taking lesser than what he thought he was going to be able to get because he and his can't miss play the market a bit. Montour, I think they're going to do everything to re-sign because I think that they truly believe that the 70-point season from 2 years ago wasn't a fluke and that he could be a 60-plus guy going forward. But Reinhart is really the one that I wonder about, so I'm going to say beer.
Anthony.
So they have about $20 million of cap space available this summer. So technically speaking, yes, they could afford to re-sign both Montour and Reinhart. But the underlying issue is Lundell's an RFA this year, so they have to re-sign Lundell. And then next year, they have Bennett and Verhaeghe that are UFAs. So if they decide to lock up both Montour and Reinhart this year, I don't know if that's going to leave them with enough money to sign Verhaeghe and Bennett. So I think they're going to have to choose who they value in keeping. So yes, technically speaking, they can afford to re-sign Montour and Reinhart. It's just the after effect of doing that may cause them to lose Verhaeghe, Bennett, and then, like I said, keep in mind they have to re-sign Lundell this year as an RFA. So I'm going to say shot just because of the afterwaves of re-signing both and what it might do. So they're going to have to make some decisions.
I'm going to just jump in real quick before you go, Mark. But Anthony, you said $20 million in cap space, but they only have 7 forwards under contract next year and 5 defenders. And only 3 of those defenders are NHL caliber defenders in Ekblad, Forsling, and Mikkola.
Yes,
so
that's a lot of
they
heavy
don't
lifting.
have a lot of space considering how many guys they have to re-sign.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to give you guys a follow-up on this because Anthony just outlined 4 guys. But I think Reinhart, you got to look at a 57 goal season. It was 57, right?
57,
Yeah. Yeah, that you got to look at that and say the 24.5% shooting percentage. You got to try to cash in on that as much as possible and find an 8-year deal or 7-year deal elsewhere, 8 years if it's with the Panthers. I'm actually won't be able to afford. They can technically, but I'm going to say that they're going to have to make a decision. I'm going to go shot with that. That they're wait, actually, or this is a round technically. If I'm saying a round, they can't afford both, so we're going to go that way. Because let me start with you on this one, Anthony. You said 4 guys right there for Hagee, Reinhart, Montour, and Sam Bennett. Put in order of importance 1 to 4.
That's a tough one.
Wait, what? Hold on.
They're all such-
I was typing something into the chat.
Verhaeghe, Montour, Reinhart, and Bennett. Put in the order of importance 1 to 4. And I'll let Anthony start that one.
Montour, Reinhart, and Bennett.
Yeah.
That's so hard because I mean they're all, like Bennett is the guy that's a pest. He's good offensively. He plays hard. I mean, then you have Verhaeghe's just kind of like a pure goal scorer, clutch. I mean, Reinhart obviously 57 goals, and then Montour is a puck moving defenseman that can score 60 plus. So that's actually really hard, Mark.
I gotta go 1 Montour, 2 Verhaeghe, 3 Reinhart, and 4 Bennett.
I gotta go Montour because he's so good for their back end. Number 1.
They need him more.
Yeah, I would actually go Verhaeghe next because it's 40 goals, clutch scorer, and I think he's going to cost you less than Sam Reinhart. First off, this is a great question because I think everybody could put someone else at number 1. Bennett, I'll go Bennett as 4 and Reinhart as 3. Because when Reinhart has got his game going, forget it. He's just finding the back of the net the entire time. All right. Looking at another forward, guys, that signed a bridge deal last year. Trevor Zegras, 3-year, 5.75 AAV deal. The Ducks acquired Cutter Gauthier from the Flyers last season. I put him down as a center. I mean, he could be a forward, right? But it more than likely means...
Yeah, he's. I mean, I think they want him to play center in the NHL, from what I've heard.
Okay. But does that mean the Ducks are going to move Trevor Zegras this summer? Phil, who did I go with the last one? Anthony, how about you?
A lot of smoke around this one. We kind of speculated before on this show about, debating whether or not Verbeek may not feel that Zegras is a guy that you win with. I mean, a lot of talent, but do you win with him? And I think, part of his contract stalemate last season, I think was kind of like, a struggle back and forth there with Verbeek, and ultimately got him signed. But I'm going to say Beer. I don't think Verbeek wants to go out of his way to just move him. However, I do think he's going to put feelers out there, and if he can get a team that would cough up a high-end asset, and maybe like another prospect or a pick, I think he might be willing to do it. Because, I mean, if you look, Mark, you mentioned they got Cutter Gauthier. They have Leo Carlson, who looked fantastic last year. Obviously you have Mason McTavish in place, Troy Terry. So they got a good nucleus of young players, and I feel if they could acquire a piece that he feels may help them more in the long run when it comes to eventually winning a Stanley Cup, I think he might pull the trigger. So I'm going to go Beer, because I think there's also a chance that he obviously keeps such a young player and lets him develop with this young core and see if he grows as a player. Because I think as he gets older and matures more, he might change the style of the game he plays to a certain degree, and that might be something that the Ducks would welcome. So, I'll stick with Beer here.
Phil?
He's got 2 years left on that deal, and then he becomes a restricted free agent, arbitration eligible at that point.
I gotta hop off, guys.
Anthony, take it easy.
I'll see you later, Anthony. Yeah, I really do think that if the right deal comes along, I think they will move him. I just, they have a lot of pieces already in place offensively that are just incredible that they can still build around, that are still young. Carlson, McTavish, Troy Terry is still young.
Mhm.
Obviously, Gauthier, I think, is going to be a very good player. I watched quite a bit of him at Boston College this year, obviously following Gabe Perreault. But I think that they need defense, and I think if the right young defenseman came along, I know it sounds so odd saying this that they just moved Drysdale to make that happen, but I think that they were just not enamored with Drysdale, and his injuries were a major concern with his size, although the talent was definitely there. I do think that they would move him for a defenseman if the defenseman came along, because there's Mintyukov and Zellweger, and then after that, do they have anybody that really projects as a top four defenseman, like in their system? They may have some that have the potential to be borderline top four guys, but I don't know if I trust their defense unless they go and they take a defenseman in this draft. Like I believe the draft order is, I think they're at 3. I could be wrong, but it's. I know they're high up, and if they can take someone like Leshinov or Dickinson or someone like that, then maybe they have the third pick. Okay,
Yeah, because I don't think they got 2.
Yeah. They could take Leshinov at 3, and that's from what's going around. It seems like, I know that some people are saying that after Macklin Celebrini, it's kind of like a mishmash, and you can kind of go there. And there's rumors about Demidov falling because of the fact that he plays the MHL, not the KHL. And Leshinov could be a real good pick for the Blackhawks, who also need a defenseman. If they took him at 2, I don't think anybody would really be surprised. But everybody's saying Demidov, and then Leshinov has really kind of been the guy that everybody's been saying at 3. I don't know if I could see Zeke Williams being taken that high. I don't. I am kind of high on Zane Parekh, though. I will say this. Parekh putting up 30-plus goals and almost 100 points as a defenseman in the OHL is super, super impressive. So I will say that I wouldn't be shocked if they take a defenseman and then move Zegras for another forward. But if they take a forward at this draft, I think that gives you an idea that they might want to move Zegras for a defenseman.
I'm trying to figure out the trade partner for them. And I know the Montreal Canadiens is one that always comes up. That a lot of people think that they can move Zegras north of the border. And it could be, look, I have my opinion on Trevor Zegras, and I hope I'm wrong, because it seems like a good guy. Came up big when he played for the World Juniors in the tournaments for USA. But he just seems like winning is secondary to him right now, and that the game is kind of secondary. And sometimes you get guys like JT Miller, they need a change of venue. And in Miller's case, he needed 2 of them. So I don't think Verbeek is maybe on the same level as me, but he's along the same lines of thinking. And I think that's why he's going to move on from Zegras, and he wants somebody that's going to be tougher.
Yeah.
Zegras could be one of many guys that takes that trade, goes, you gave up on me? Yeah, They don't hate
sure
to
do.
lose.
They don't hate to lose.
And by the way, one of these days I'll do a
You gotta get more
Shorzy
source
review.
and Letterkenny clips like for references and stuff. So
Yeah. But again, I think Trevor Zegras, once he stops being a celebrity, he'll actually start.
You know what? I don't even know if
more
it's
of a
just
hockey
that. I get you're talking about maturity, and I'm not sure it's he has it in them. Like some guys have it in them to play the type of game that are. Oh yeah, Reinbacher is likely untouchable. They and some consider that pick a reach, but tell you right now, Reinbacher has the ability to be an absolute stud. And I don't blame Montreal for taking him there. I don't, even though I thought they were going to take Mitchkov for sure. I really don't because 1, he's big. 2, he's talented. 3, he's extremely mobile for his size. Like, that's the thing. The NHL is now gearing towards huge mobile defensemen. And you're seeing more guys that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" that can skate like guys half their size. Like, look at Seider. And everybody looked at that pick and said, what the hell is Yzerman doing? And then he comes out and he has a rookie year that was Calder-like. Like, he was great. Absolutely
disappointing his second year, but
yes. But, I mean, Seider could be a stud for a long, long time. So, I mean, that's what the NHL is going towards with these defensemen is what I'm saying.
But if there's a chance for Verbeek to upgrade this team with moving Zegras, who's going to have value and who's been productive at the NHL level, I'm going to buy around on this. I think it actually is going to happen this year. And now question is what they're going to do with the draft, what they're going to do. We'll find that it's all out within the next 3 weeks. If not at the draft, we'll probably find out a week after free agency starts. Phil, we said goodbye to a good friend of the show this week, a very dear friend that we've come to many, many times and asked for advice or information from, and it's called CapFriendly. And the Washington Capitals bought CapFriendly this week, and the site's going to go dark. I still have it up right now. I'm trying to use Puckpedia right now, Phil. It's just so hard. But it was brilliant for the Capitals to buy CapFriendly. Yeah, round, right? Yeah.
No, I don't know if it was brilliant. I mean, I'm not gonna say it was brilliant. No, I don't know what they're getting out of this by doing it, but I do think that it was brilliant for the guys from CapFriendly to cash in on their work.
Oh, that's definitely true. Yeah.
I'm going to say that right now. I mean, I imagine the NHL has, or the teams, I don't believe this report from Freeman that teams don't have things to measure the cap with. I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. I think that's smoke. Nothing but smoke and mirrors. I think every team has their way to access the cap, and they probably, and if they don't already, they're probably taking down all the information from CapFriendly and they're doing their own database with it. So I will say if they didn't get 7 figures, that sucks. I thought they would get millions for it. But good for them to do that work and then get paid for it. Like, if you've got proof on that, cool. I mean, still they're making $400K. Okay. You know what? That you made $400K out of something that you made a hobby out of basically and ended up maintaining. So, I mean, it sucks that they didn't get what they could have gotten maybe, but good for them for getting money out of it in general. That's all I really care about. But I don't know what this does for the Capitals. Like, why? I mean, did you not already have something in place? Are you doing it for a domain name? Are you I mean, I don't know why they were doing this. I still don't understand why.
All right. I don't even know what to rank that. Would you say beer for that, or just like what do we even say?
Beer, I guess. I don't know.
All right. So we'll go with that one. I'll tell you this. I am gonna go round on this one because I actually do think it's a little bit more of a layup than what it normally would be. But they just got all the information. But then again, you got Puckpedia that's using theirs that they could do some things with. It's just when it comes to like getting all this information, I kind of agree with you. How do they not have their own departments that are all together with all this information? Because I'll tell you what, if they don't have it, all those guys are now interns. And for the next month, they are taking down every bit of information on every single contract off of CapFriendly to make sure that they got that. And they have their own departments on this. You have to know what other teams are making and what the contracts are at all times. And there's shots and documentaries of Kyle Dubas looking at CapFriendly, or Pierre Dorian, who had it open to check on contracts. I personally, I'm sad to see it go, but it's just another thing where, okay, these guys are now going to get paid, so good for them. Now it's on moving on to the next thing. Puckpedia, okay. What was another one? Was it Sport Cap or
Sport Track?
Cap Geek? Sport Track?
Yeah, Cap Geek was the original.
Yeah, that was the original one for this, and then they renamed it. But I, for one, if nobody else thought of this, or if somebody else thought of this, great. Apparently, nobody's thought of this. I can't believe it. So, all right, guys, that's the end of Bar Talk. There wasn't much to discuss this week. NHL blackout on information that kind of hindered things. So let's get to some of your comments. See what you guys think about this week. Talk about the Stanley Cup Finals. You want to talk about the Rangers? You want to talk about the Islanders? Go right ahead. Throw it all down. Phil and I were having this conversation because there's a post that I have on our Instagram page about Jacob Trouba and his misplays. And I was wondering whether or not we're giving Jacob Trouba too much of a hard time right now, Phil, because after all, he did have a broken ankle at one point, but it still doesn't make any sense to me that people are screaming, he was injured. But Phil, it doesn't explain being out of position like that. If anything, you'd be more conservative.
This guy's been doing stupid shit for years. It gets tiring with these people defend him. There's clips from 2015 of him getting absolutely dog walked by Emerson Edom. And Emerson Edom is a name that Ranger fans should remember because Carl Hagelin was traded for him. And then you have the people that are looking at the clip with him against St. Louis. And there's nearly 30 seconds left in the third period of Game 6 against St. Louis with Winnipeg, and he just goes and he tries to eat the puck along the boards when he had time to move the puck, and you could have just iced the puck. Like if you didn't wait for 5 hours for the player to bear down on you, you could have moved the puck. Like what are you doing? What are you doing trying to eat the puck with 25 seconds left? I just don't understand it. And it's people will defend this guy to no length for whatever reason. And I don't understand it. And he is one of the worst defensemen that I have seen on this team in quite some time. I don't understand it. Like and I'm not talking about AHL level guys. I'm not like you're going to mention, oh, well, what about Rob O'Gara or what about Freddie Claesson? Like, okay, I would rather have Claesson than Trouba, especially at $8 million and just turning pucks over and getting beaten. I just don't understand how people defend this guy. It's a complete joke. Absolute friggin' joke. Muted.
I don't understand how I got muted out of nowhere because I didn't even move it.
It's Trouba because of the fact that he came in, he wanted his big deal, even though that, and then Gorton should have known that he wasn't going to score 50 friggin' points in a season again in New York, because he just absolutely just took advantage of Buffalo not being there on the power play in 2019 for Winnipeg because he was hurt. And then Gorton gives him the stupid contract, and then he goes and plays injured 2 years in a row where he refuses to sit when he's clearly not 100%, and it hurts the team. They went 12-2 without him. He comes back in the first game against Arizona. What happens? They give up 5 goals to Arizona, one of the worst teams in the league. Like, how are you doing that? And this guy is not a captain. He sucks. He sucks in every facet. At least Redden took his burial to the AHL, took his money, understood that he was bad, and then didn't complain about it. And that was it. That was it. It was done.
Yeah, Wade Redden was a square peg in a round hole. The Rangers signed him to be their number one defenseman, and he just never, ever fit in any way. Trouba, let me correct that. Trouba, they're still trying to get that hammer and jam that peg in the hole. Trouba was supposed to be a power play 1 quarterback. He wasn't. Lost that job within a month. Trouba was supposed to be the guy that takes on the other team's top offense players. He's not.
That by the end of the first season.
Lost that, but yes, by the end of the first season. He's supposed to be this defensive stalwart, and I understand, like, you get other stats like hits, block shots, or what's the other one the guy tried to cite with you today? Well, that's great. That means you never have the puck. And the other thing is, for one, I'm kind of tired of hearing about the chicken wings. Because he goes out, he'll throw the elbow. That's like his tactic. Stop. If you did it every now and again, it would be like, all right, he does it. It's that. I actually think it's a tactic in his defensive system. There are times where I defend him. There's times where I don't. It's the end of the season. You have the ability to move him. Move him. At all costs, move Jacob Trouba. You have to do it. Because here's the other thing. Is his production worth $8 million? I used to call Philk, if you remember from the early on days of the channel, I used to call Redden and Roosevelt $11 million of irrelevant, because neither one of them were that. Like, Redden was supposed to be the great defensive player that would be steady offensively. Roosevelt was supposed to be the offensive, like, juggernaut for the team because he had one good season. No, it's that Trouba needs to go. Now, what makes you worried about it is then you have under contract Fox, Schneider, Miller, and I don't know do they have a fourth defenseman under contract? Jones?
What, for right side D?
Or just D in general?
So they have Fox, Jones, Miller, Trouba, and Schneider. No, Schneider's an RFA. So no, they have 4 defensemen right now under contract.
There was a question in the comments on a drink. Actually, I have to add that one.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, the crispy crunch martini. I think he means a cinnamon toast, but I'll ask him on that one. But but again, so the Rangers have to look into free agency to try to fill that hole. Look, you can't tell me you can't find a better defenseman than Jacob Trouba at free agency. And could Brett Pesce be healthy enough? Because I'm tired of hearing about Brett Pesce being injured. It's not even that much, but still.
I would like Brett Pesce, but I don't think he's going to go for what the Rangers should sign him for. The Rangers should give him no more than $4.5 million to be their third pairing right defenseman. But I don't think that he would go for that. I think he's looking for 5 to 6, and I think he's looking for a top 4 role. And that's just not something you can give to him right now.
Oh my God, I forgot the name of that liquor right now. I gotta think about it.
Yeah, I could see Pesce getting 6 to 7 from somebody, and I don't think he's worth that. It's just like Orlov. Orlov got 7 from Carolina, and that was just not a good one. Leo asking, what is Kakko's real market on the value? Hearing from the same source that told me the Kakkonen trade that Kakko is certainly asking for a trade out of New York. I didn't know you had a source on the Kakkonen trade. That's interesting.
And hey, feel free to share them.
Feel free to share whatever you know. I think he's probably gone. I just think that it's just too. I think both sides need a change. I don't think he's going to get what he needs out here. No, that's a terrible trade for the Rangers. No, and I am not. I would never. That contract is atrocious. He is not good. He is going to basically be a bust. Kotkaniemi. Nope. No, thank you. But yeah, I would never. I just don't see him lasting here. I think they've gotten to a point where they've given him enough chances. I mean, I don't know if Peter Laviolette's blowing smoke with his comments, but I don't know. I think that the big two things that really need to change with Kakko, and I don't know if he can do it here, is skating. His skating is just not good enough, and his confidence. And the latter really has to do with the former. You're looking at a player that doesn't have the confidence to drive to the inside and take the shot because he's not fast enough to beat defenders and create separation. Yeah, true. A Trouba buyout can give you more cap space to acquire D-man, but you're also $4 million in dead cap on the book.
That's why. Look, I keep on going back to this. Someone's going to value Jacob Trouba. It's just a matter of how much of that contract you're going to have to eat. And if you can get $6 million off the cap AAV, you do that. I mean, I'd be willing to go to eat half of it. But then again, I've said that about a lot of guys. Like Dan Girardi. Dan Girardi, when they were like, "Oh, they gotta buy him out," he ends up signing at Tampa Bay for what the buyout would have been, or for if you ate half of it. I think he signed for a 3-year for $3 million when I think it was making like 5.75 at the time. Like the Rangers could have ate that and just given them away. I mean, Vegas basically did similar stuff, shedding deals left and right. But now getting back to Kakko, I keep going back to Kakko. And by the way, Rumchata, thank you guys. I remembered it just as I saw Jason say it. But I mean, I look at Kakko and it just what's left for him in New York. I mean, sure, there's the Stanley Cup. Maybe he can actually achieve that. But as far as his career goes, he's got to go figure out what he's going to be. And I don't think he could do that as a New York Ranger. I don't think he could do that under the spotlight. I don't think he could do that under this current roster construction. And this is why I talk about times where guys go, well, they need this, they need this, they need this. Let's say they go out and get Jake Gensel. Power play 1 is set. They got to change their power play philosophies. And I'm not changing the personnel on power play 1 at the moment. I do think you need to start getting a second power play unit. So you go, this is not working, move to the next one. Because that's not helping guys like Alexei Lafreniere. It's not helping him get more points. And, I forgot what the original point was. But anyway, that's why I think Kakko's got to go. It's not going to happen for me here. Now, the other thing about Kotkaniemi is, or whatever the fuck his name is right now, I might have mispronounced it. Phil, sorry about the F-bomb, guys. But no, the Rangers have to get tougher.
Kotkaniemi
Florida's exposed. They need to get tougher.
Kotkaniemi is he's going to get bought out likely. And not only, but the thing is that it's what they call the 1/3 rule. So if you buy out a player under 25 years old, you only pay 1/3 of the salary in the buyout as opposed to 2/3. kind of like what happened with Tony DeAngelo. So it's going to be a buyout, and it's going to be likely. I would imagine it'll happen this offseason because Kotkaniemi is getting to the point where they know what he is. This is what he is. He's not a good enough player. He was a reach at 3. I don't think that. I don't think he's there in Carolina next year. So, but I actually have two kind of questions here that kind of coincide with each other. The one here is from Jay that I starred before, and it said, "Does anyone think Shesterkin will hold off on contract negotiations and possibly move if the team doesn't show up in the playoffs?" Which also coincides with this question that I'm trying to find before. I'm trying to see where it was. Sorry. From Matt. There it is. Okay. Would you guys trade Igor this offseason if they can't get an extension done under $10 million? I would. I'm not comfortable with him letting him play with 1 year left. I've said this on my social media. I advocate a rebuild. I know it's not going to happen, but I personally, I would if he wants like $11 million or something like that. I am not a fan of giving that type of contract to a goaltender. I'm really not. I'm sorry. I understand he may play the most minutes out of anybody on the team, but he doesn't play the most games. He plays in upwards of 60 games, and you cannot give a goaltender that type of contract and win with that. I just, if Bobrovsky wins the Stanley Cup this year with Florida, if they win it, it would be the first time that a $10 million or more goaltender has won a Stanley Cup. And you could point to Vasilevsky and say, oh, well, 9.5, and now he would be a $10 million goaltender if he wasn't playing in Tampa. If my aunt had a you-know-what, she'd be my uncle.
Yeah.
It's just you can't do that. And a lot of the teams in the cap era have won with less than elite goaltending. Carolina in 2006. Cam Ward may have won that Conn Smythe, but was Cam Ward ever an elite goaltender?
Nope.
No. 2007. John Sebastian Jaguar wasn't an elite goaltender at the time. He had that amazing run in 2003, and then they took away those illegal shoulder pads, and he wasn't the same goaltender afterwards. So, no. 2008. Chris Osgood won the Stanley Cup. Was he an elite goaltender?
The definition of mid.
I don't want to say mid because I think he was above average, but I think that he was. If I had to go back and ask who the 3 most important players on that Detroit team were, he's definitely not in that top 3. It's Zetterberg, Datsuk, and Lidstrom. And he definitely is not in the top 3 of that discussion. I mean, Johan Franzen had an amazing run in that 08 postseason for them. But he's definitely not in the top 3. You could argue he's maybe even 5, not 4. But I look at 2010 and 2015 and 2013, and Chicago won with a combination of Antti Niemi and Corey Crawford. They won with lesser goaltending.
Wait, which year was that?
2010, 13, and 15.
I was gonna say, wasn't that Cristobal Huet or no, that was the year before. Nikolai Khabibulin was on the first Cup team for Chicago, right?
What's that?
Antti Niemi, the backup was Khabibulin, right?
No.
All right, I may hear mixed up.
Boyd was not there at that time. So it was Niemi, and then Crawford was the next 2.
Now, by the way, go to 2011. Let's give this caveat.
Okay, yeah, Tim Thomas won the Vezina. I think one of his 2 Vezinas. I think Thomas won.
Yeah.
Vezina Thomas won, but I think Thomas was more of a byproduct of the team than he was an elite goaltender. But that's me. You want to debate that? We can debate that. 2012, Quick was at the time an elite goaltender. He was one of the better goaltenders in the league.
But
And
he
then-
wasn't a Vezina Trophy winner. That's an important thing to go into that.
Listen, you don't have to be a Vezina winner to be elite. You don't, because because there's only one goaltender that wins the Vezina every year. So if you're not the Vezina winner and you're not elite by that definition, then there's only one elite goaltender. So it doesn't really make sense. But I mean, look at Pittsburgh, Matt Murray in 2016 and 17.
And Marc-Andre Fleury in 2009. He didn't win his Vezina until 2020.
2020. Well, I mean, and Fleury, I don't think Fleury was really the difference in 2009. I think the difference was a Conn Smythe winning Evgeny Malkin, and then you had Sidney Crosby, who also put up 30 points. I mean, the last time two centers on the same team put up 30 points in a postseason, I think you would have to go back to the 80s Oilers with Gretzky and Messier. So that just goes to show you how rare of a feat that is. But
all right, again, so 2016, 2017 was Matt Murray.
2018
and a little bit of Marc-Andre Fleury in the playoffs in 17.
18 was Holtby. And Holtby didn't even start the playoffs as a starter. Grubauer
Holtby was on the downslide at that time.
Yes.
He already won his Vezina, but he was on the downslide.
And then 2019, Binnington. I mean, Binnington had a great run, but he wasn't the reason they won. O'Reilly was the first. O'Reilly won the Conn Smythe. And then you have, 2020. I mean, Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky's elite. We're not going to even talk about.
We're not even going to debate that. Yeah,
so not even debating that. But 22, Darcy Kemper. Darcy Kemper was, I think, had a sub 900 save percentage in the Stanley Cup Finals, and still won a Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have 2023, Aiden Hill. Aiden Hill's elite. No, sorry, not buying it. But
I think one thing that people neglect in this situation, Phil, never mind how much money you can make out of, or sorry, how much you're going to have to pay Shesterkin. Never mind what goaltenders have done it without being elite. But the Rangers would get back pieces. And those pieces, you'd have an NHL ready player, maybe two, maybe a draft pick or a prospect coming in. And then you start to refresh the tree because the cupboard is starting to look a little bit bare. And this draft isn't going to help matters because they have no second round pick, no third round pick next year, no second round pick, no third round pick. And that's where the irony of this draft is. They might be at the Sphere and turn over to James Nolan and go, yeah, we're trading out of the first round, buddy. So how about that? But that's something that would go into Shesterkin. Now, pen has to be put to paper long before day one. They have to figure out this extension now. You cannot go into the season with him.
It's got to be figured out now, and it's got to be something reasonable. And I just don't think double digits is reasonable for a goaltender. I know there are two goaltenders that have had double-digit contracts in the cap era. I don't think it's reasonable at all. I really don't. Montreal couldn't do anything with Price. Bobrovsky before last year was viewed as one of the worst contracts in the NHL. Now all of a sudden he decides to turn it around a little bit, and then the team really finds how to play hockey, and now all of a sudden people are pointing towards him as to why you should give a goaltender a double-digit AV contract. I'm not buying that. I'm sorry.
No, and I agree with you 100% on that one. You look, when it comes to great goaltending, show me a great goaltender, show me a great coach. Show me good defense that's in front of him. And while Shesterkin looks great right now, if they end up paying him $11 million and they have basically Adam Fox on one leg and no one else next to him, I'll show you a goalie that's getting beat left and right because you can't do it. You can't pay him the same amount you pay Artemi Panarin. And also because Shesterkin's only going to play 60 games. Goalies don't play 70 games anymore. It's not going to happen. So you're basically giving money away. You can't do it. And it has nothing to do with what my personal feelings is about the player, whether or not as a fan or as a pundit. You got to look at it objectively and just say, you can't pay this guy $11 million. If another team wants to do it, go right ahead. Because the Rangers are in danger of being would you give Szczesny the same contract they gave Fox?
Yeah, I think 9.5 is really the highest I would want to go for that.
Agreed.
I mean, I would prefer, like, I understand he's not going to get 8.5 like Hellebuck. He's going to go higher than Hellebuck. I understand it. It's like the next man up in football. The next quarterback always ends up resetting the quarterback record for whatever reason, or getting a ridiculous thing, except Daniel Jones, who just wasn't good enough and should have never gotten $40 million to begin with. But
agreed.
I digress there. We're not going to go into that. Adam Fox, that 9.5 cap hit, bless you. You were muted, Mark. Yeah, but 9.5, I think, is where I would want to go. And I get the argument is going to be from fans. Well, if you're willing to go to 9.5, why are you not willing to go to 10 or 10.5? What's the big deal? What's the difference? You don't want to keep your best goaltender in the world over $1 million. The point is that you shouldn't be paying goaltenders who don't play in all 82 games as much as you pay your top forwards. You don't. It just, that's the thing. And maybe Matt's right about this. Maybe that ends up happening. But you know what? I can't say that I am crazy about the idea of giving him a double-digit AAV. It just doesn't help this team. It really doesn't. And you've seen what formula has worked in the salary cap era. Why are you going to go against that?
Phil, I got to keep going on from there because, look, first off, if he comes back and plays out his final year of his deal and then demands $11 million, it's not going to be just from the New York Rangers. It'll be from anybody. And some idiot will pay him, or a team with cap space. Utah wants to make a splash. Why not? Utah, go ahead. And then you're living in Utah. Good for you. Now, the thing I wonder about with Shesterkin, and the reason why they have to figure this out now is because you can get assets back. Goalies don't get traded in season anymore. It doesn't happen. And we could say, oh, come on, just because it doesn't happen. The greatest goalie trade happened in 1995, very early in the season. That's Patrick Waugh.
Yeah, and that happened because of different extenuating circumstances. You don't leave a goaltender in there like that and then have he literally went to the owner and said he'll never play another game for the team again.
I do think Montreal wanted to humiliate him, so he'd ask out.
I don't know about that.
There's no other reason to leave him in.
I think there was issues between him and the coach. I don't think they wanted to humiliate him, so he asked out. I think there was issues between him and the coach.
All right. That's just my opinion. That was the opinion I had when I was 18, and it's what I'm going to stick with. But Phil, can you think of a goalie that was traded mid-season in the last decade that really won a playoff series? I mean, I think we went all the way back to Dwayne Rolison in 2006, the last goalie traded at the deadline to win a playoff series.
Rolison went to the finals, and many people believe that if he wasn't injured in the finals in game 1, I think it was, that Edmonton could have won the Stanley Cup because Markkanen had to come in, and Markkanen played well, but Markkanen was not Rolison at the time.
Yeah. And, I mean, Ryan Miller was traded from Buffalo to St. Louis. That's an elite goalie. And again, I'm talking about like elite goalies at that. It doesn't happen. Like I'll look through transactions and everything soon enough, but usually, and goalies like to know what their system is, practice with their teams, get familiar with everybody. And this is something that was brought up on NHL Network by McKenna. But it's something that I actually firmly believe now that you almost can't trade for a goalie at the deadline anymore, never mind midseason. So first off, it's not happening in the middle of the year. Secondly, yeah, they have to make that move now and figure out what it is. I don't think it's a full rebuild, Phil. I think
I know it's not. I know.
Even a soft rebuild, you might look at what the Panthers did, going from the President's Trophy maybe down to a wild card, but setting yourself up for future success.
I just don't think this core is built to win. I don't. I think that I don't think you're getting Zibanejad and Panarin to play the type of hockey that you need to play in order to win the cup. I don't see it. I think Chris Kreider, if they look to move a core guy, I think Chris Kreider would be a guy that they would look to move because his contract it's flexible enough. He's going to be 34, so he's getting up there in age. So eventually he's going to decline. I just don't. I also think that he doesn't give you anything at 5-on-5 anymore. I think him and Zibanejad just don't like to skate at 5-on-5. I think it reminds me of Ovechkin, like how he went from the most dynamic, exciting player ever to a guy that ended up being a one-trick power play pony that ends up scoring 50 goals every year because he could just do the one-timer from the Ovechkin spot. So I just think that it's. I think that you really need to kind of look at this team and see what type of players you have, because you cannot have two players like that be that brutal 5-on-5. They can't. They're just, the two of them are awful 5-on-5. Panarin could probably stick around and probably will stick around because he's not going to want to leave New York. Him and his wife love New York. But tell you right now, it really, the thing is with it's Zibanejad and Kreider. You're not getting enough 5-on-5. And Kreider has been plagued with inconsistency throughout his entire career. And now he takes more games off than he did before. And then he'll show up for his 5-game stretch where he goes absolute bonkers and then doesn't score again for a while. So it's a dilemma at the least.
And Phil, I brought this up several different times, and I joke about it. President of the Chris Kreider fan club, all this stuff. We get the exact age again. He's 34 years old right now.
Why are we going to acquire Buchnevich when Buchnevich is not the type of player that this team needs in order to get over the hump against Florida? And I see this name. I see Patrick Kane come up again. Why this team needs tougher forwards that have skill that can play north-south game and get to the middle of the ice. Pavel Buchnevich, as much as people miss him, is not that type of player.
Phil, I always go back to the saying, and first, let me actually, before I get to that, let me say the Chris Kreider thing. If I told you that you could trade a player right now who in the last 3 seasons, 127 goals, 79 assists, 206 points, is a plus 59, 47 even strength goals, 21 game winners. Those numbers the last 3 years are great. And if you can move him to a team, let's say a team that wants to just get up a little bit more in the standings, and they're able to send somebody over, I would actually move Chris Kreider. Now, we all know the guy that I always say is the championship trade. I use this as an example, is Brendan Shanahan. And it was definitely a tough call for, I think it was Ken Holland back in 96, to say, we're going to move Paul Coffey for Brendan and Keith Primeau, who was a very big contributor for the Detroit Red Wings, from Brendan Shanahan. And then what happened was they end up getting, I think that's when Maltby and McCarty really became more of an influence on the team. A year later, they won the Stanley Cup because they got tougher.
No, I don't think. No, he didn't make that trade. Devellano, I think, made that trade.
It's still a tough call.
Yeah.
And thanks for letting me know on that one, because Ken Holland was there forever.
Yeah, he became general manager in July of '97. Devellano, I think. Let's see. Yeah, Devellano was promoted from general manager to senior vice president, alternate governor after the '97 Cup win. So all those deals that were made, like beforehand, and all those draft picks are all Devellano's genius.
But in all these times, Phil, I never heard of a team or many teams in the Stanley Cup era get softer and end up moving on and winning a cup. Yeah, sure. There's like a fit. Maybe if you want to say maybe the New Jersey Devils of 2000, because they brought in Alexander McGillney, but they were built tough, and McGillney just was the scoring punch that they needed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You can bring in guys with skill, but you have to have a core that plays tough and plays north-south, east-west. And the Devils had that in 2000, and they brought back Lemieux, and they brought in McGillney. They brought in Malakhov. I mean, those guys were not – I mean, Malakhov and McGillney were not guys that were big, bruising, players. I mean, Malakhov was big, but he wasn't a bruiser. I mean, he wasn't known as that type. But, they had the right guys already in place. And, yeah, that's the thing. So, I mean, this is really it here. Kreider even got barely net front and series, and that's usually spot. He wasn't there. I mean, I don't know why he wasn't, but you got to go there. You got to go there. You got to fight.
Who was a bigger net front presence in that series? Chris Kreider or Jake Gensel?
In the Carolina series?
Yeah.
Probably Gensel for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, Gensel scored his goals in the slot. And Kreider,
and a couple deflections in front,
really kind of invisible at many points in that series.
If you told me, and again, I've been a Chris Kreider fan for a while. So I want to say the personal part in there to say, if you told me the Rangers trade Chris Kreider, get back pieces, and then they signed Jake Gensel, I would not have a problem with that. Now you're talking about changing up that power play. Now that power play changes. Now that dynamic of that first line changes. And look, this is where it comes down to, it's not personal, it's business. That's simple.
Yeah. I've got to get going now.
Yeah, guys, we actually went nice and long on this stream. Thank you very much for joining us today. There's so much more that we still have to talk about. And we still have to arrange a mock draft with you and Steven again, because you guys did great with that last year.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. So
that's when I get to brush up on my the knowledge on prospects. So guys, everybody, thanks very much for joining us today on Big Apple Hockey, and we will see you all soon.